Good morning. Today I wanted to do a video comparing different types of trellises, specifically for tomatoes. So let's get right into it. This is the first type. I'm not sure if you can see it. My camera's having trouble focusing on the, I don't know what you would call these legs of the tomato cage, but I like these. I bought these last year because it is one, it's not disconnected. It goes all the way down to the ground. They're about 5 feet tall. And these connect them. Now they're not perfect because multiple times I have, not this year obviously, but I've had tomatoes grow so tall that they come out of the top of it. But as far as being sturdy, these ones that don't disconnect, that have one leg that goes all the way down, they're pretty sturdy, especially if you hammer the tops in pretty far. So I have enjoyed these and I've used them. Like I said, this is my second year using them. Now, to contrast that with a new variety that I bought this year. Now these are coming apart. No, this one is from from last year. But as you can see on the bottom here, they are connected. If I can see right here, that is connected. So that's one piece down here, and then that's connecting another piece. You can see there's another connector. Now this works good for shorter tomato plants, maybe a determinate variety. It'll stay together. But I found I already pulled the plant out, but I had a cherry tomato plant that was in one of these, and I kept, adding on as the plant grew. But then it got so tall and so strong that the entire thing started tipping over, and the weight pulled the top beam out of this, like it was disconnecting. So I do not recommend these for indeterminate tomatoes. It may seem like a good idea to build it with the plant, to have it, and I did that. It was nice when the plant was smaller to just build it as the plant grew. But once the plant was tall and strong, it was both tipping over because the rain loosens the soil and breaking under the weight of the plant. So I do not recommend the ones that disconnect for indeterminate tomatoes. Now here's a tomato cage that everybody is familiar with. When you say tomato cage, most people probably think of this, which is ironic because it doesn't work with indeterminate tomatoes. It will work with determinate tomatoes. I have it, as you can see, on a zucchini plant. And even with the zucchini plant, you can see it's tipping because this zucchini plant got so big. So these little tomato cages work for smaller plants, zucchinis that don't get super big, determinate tomatoes that don't get very tall. As you can see, I actually have it on this tomato plant and it's doing fine. It's not leaning very much, but that's because this plant didn't get very big. If the plant got any bigger, you can see it's all the way at the top, then this cage would not work well with an indeterminate tomato. Now, if you look over here, I have bamboo sticks. I just used these bamboo sticks. I used them for the zucchinis, as you can see over there. See them? I used them for these tomato plants. I'm trying to think what else. I used them with green beans, and they actually worked really well with the green beans. Come over here for a second. See? Isn't that neat? So here's the bean plants, And when they found the bamboo stake, they just climb up it. So highly recommend for beans. But for the tomato plants, I do not recommend bamboo stakes. Maybe again for determinate, but as you can see, it is leaning with this beefsteak. The tomatoes just get too heavy and they pull it over. So if you do use bamboo stakes, I would recommend using them with lighter plants like the beans again. And let me tell you the problem I had with the zucchini plants. So I saw a video where they tied the zucchini stalk to a bamboo stake. But the problem I had was keeping up with the tying. If you don't keep up with the tying, then I had the zucchini stalk, it snapped in half, and my plant obviously died because the top got too heavy for the bottom. Now, if you keep up with the tying, perhaps it will work. Again, the zucchini plant will get very heavy and you will have to keep the stalk straight. You can see on this one, the stalk is not straight. It's, well, maybe you can't see it, but it's bowing out back there and coming back. So it didn't work for me. Maybe you can find a better way to do it, but I probably wouldn't recommend it. I do like the zucchinis in these tomato cages, but again, you have to train the plant. If you're growing it vertically, if you're just letting it crawl on the ground, then don't worry about it. I did that last year, but I wanted more room in my garden. That's why I am growing them vertically. But do not recommend the bamboo stake sticks, whatever you want to call them, for heavy plants. Now, after experimenting this year with the many different tomato cages and methods of trellising, we are going to try to do this next year. I had a video on when we actually installed it, but it is very tall, and if the tomatoes wanted to, they could go straight up and over. And we're actually installing these cattle panel trellises in most of the beds. 3 or 4 is what I'm thinking right now, but it might be different later on. But I've seen people do this. I've heard great things about using an arching trellis. So you guys will see with me how that turns out next year. We're installing them this year and we're gonna use them next year, but I've only heard great things about the cattle panel trellis. The last trellising method that I used this year is just a chain link fence. And as you can see, it worked. That is a cucumber climbing up it. I had to train it. I had to weave it, the smaller branches, in and out of the links, but it had no trouble climbing up it. Now the plant itself isn't very healthy because the soil needs amending, and I did not. I just planted it, so obviously it did not grow huge. But if you have chain link fences just sitting around, they work as trellises. So if you don't want to go out and buy a trellis and you have access to chain link fence, I do think it would be worthwhile to try it out because it worked for me. And I think it would work if you don't mind the rustic look of it before there are actually plants growing on it. But once the plants get going, especially if you had more than just one, and they were growing along the bottom and then growing up and over, I think it would look really well. And it worked out for us. So that is what I learned about trellises this summer, and I will continue to learn. This is only my 3rd year gardening. So as I discover new things, I will share them with you. And I hope you're doing well this fall season. I hope your garden went well, and I'm excited for a break this winter, and I hope that next year will be as much fun. It always is fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun, personally. I will talk to you in our next video. Goodbye.